Good morning. Good morning. Hi. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. Good morning, beautiful people. It's your girl, Bev, again on a Saturday morning. Good morning to my three people that are here with me. I'm not going to wait for a whole bunch of people because I can talk to three just as much as I can talk to 25. It's a beautiful day here. Well, the sun is not shining as much, but it is in Durham, North Carolina, and I'm just happy to be alive this morning. Very grateful for all of the good things that are taking place in my life and for all the things that, make me feel beautiful. Um, I just want to say good morning to everyone. I hope everyone is doing well. I hope everyone has had that wonderful week. If I'm not mistaken, last week, where was I at last week? Last week, we talked about self love and self care. We talked about ways to better take care of yourself, ways to like do things that benefit you as a person. I hope that this week you have established something that has made you go that route and take those steps to do those certain things. And if not, I hope you're still planning for the future to do more things to better take care of you. So I did put in the section to do a few updates. Good morning to those that are coming in to do a few updates because I have so many things that I would like to do in the future for my show. Good morning, my Instagram viewer. I have a few things that I wanted to do for my show. I did mention that I wanted to do hoodies, and this morning I had a meeting with someone that is working on customizing a hoodie for me as well. Oh, good evening, all the way from South Africa. And so I've been working. I've had a conversation this morning about working on hoodies, sweat and sweatshirts. That's what I've gotten so far, because I think I'm going to do t-shirts for the spring and summer sessions. But I definitely want to work on some things. I'm going to be working more on that to get the Fly with Beth show, some sweatshirts, and I also am going to reconstruct how I do certain things on my show. So I know normally I do a platform where I talk and you all interact with me, but I also want to open the floor up for um to make it a talk show on certain days. So I think every third Saturday of the month, God willing, this is my plan to have someone come on the show with me. If not one person, we can do a couple people. It doesn't matter. I'll give you more details, and I'll figure out how I'm going to choose those people. But I want someone to come on, whether it's to talk about a certain topic or whether it's to just interview and ask questions, or maybe if you all want to interview me, I don't know. We can do it that way too, where we can make it a talk show, so to speak, on every third Saturday, so that we can have it a little bit more interactive. I would love to see, you all come on here. I would love to hear your stories if you want to share your story. Just anything like that. If you're interested in doing that and you would like to come to me and tell me about what you want to share or things like that, we can get together questions and we can go back and forth and how we're going to do it. And I'm more of a spontaneous person, to be honest. So I kind of normally just do things off the fly. But when it comes down to that third Saturday, I do want to plan it out with the person that's going to be here. Good morning, beautiful people that are coming on. Right now, I'm discussing just how every third Saturday I want to make it more of an interview type deal. I could do more than one person. I could do just one person, things like that, to make it more of a interview type deal on the third Saturdays. Now I haven't figured out which day I'm going to do the radio aspect from it, because I do want to do things where you all win prizes, where you all basically for answering certain questions, or for being the first person to answer the question, things like that. So I kind of, or being maybe the first person that comes on to the live, just be aware of different things like that, because I want to make it interesting. Or being maybe like the 10th person that comes onto the live and comments, things like that. The person that's commenting the most that day. You never know what the prize is going to be about, but I'm going to have it in my mind as far as what I'm going to give prizes for. And then as you win them, I'll let you know. It may be one prize for that day, or maybe two prizes. It may be like a Cash App reward, or it may be like a shirt. It may be something, or maybe you win a interview with me and then a shirt or something like that. So I'm going to get my prizes and stuff together. So I want to do that once out of the month and go from there. So those are some updates that I want to do, some things that I want to keep you all involved, because I don't want to just have it where it's just me talking. I want to invite you all on and we can make it work. We can make it more beautiful, things like that. So I want it to be a fun, interactive atmosphere. And I want us to really, truly take advantage of the time to just have positivity in our lives and to be able to go forward in that. Today, as you can see, I think it shows you what all we have, what all I've put in the section for what it's going to be about. I want to talk about fear today. I want to talk about fear. I know we've talked about mental health. I know we've talked about anxiety. I know we've talked about depression, but I actually want to just zoom in, focus on fear itself. And, what is fear? What are some common fears that people have? What are some ways we can overcome it? What are some questions maybe you can ask yourself, or things like that whenever you find yourself afraid? What is making you afraid? And why is it making you afraid? Just things like that, because sometimes we can really put ourselves in a place where we allow fear to run our lives. We allow fear to keep us hindered. We allow fear, instead of it being our motivator, it's our hindrance. And it stops us from doing things that we know we can do and things that we're actually really good at. But we allow just things to come into our world and shake us up a little bit. And instead of us using that to make us run further, we allow it to run us in the opposite direction. I myself am definitely a big person that has allowed fear to hinder me at some points in my life, and to keep me from doing certain things, and to keep me from having faith as well. Because if it's not faith, it's fear sometimes. And it's not necessarily doubt. Sometimes it's just fear. You're just afraid of what can happen. And so that's where I want to start today. I do want your input. I'm going to have moments when I definitely will need your input. Feel free to chime in whenever you want. I will read your comments as time go on. You all know how this normally works, but this is just for the people that just coming in. I appreciate all feedback, as long as you keep it positive, and respectful. We're good on that aspect. So I really do appreciate all of you that have joined this morning. So I hope that I can, incorporate some sunshine and, love into your life this morning. So let's see. First and foremost, good morning, Brother Trenton. Thank you. Let's see. The first thing I want to ask is, what is fear? I want you all to just, maybe you can answer, what is fear? What is fear to you? What do you think fear is? What is fear? Let's talk about it. Let's get on in there. I'll give you a few minutes to, not a few minutes, but maybe like 30 seconds to comment. Then I'll, go on with my explanation, because I've been doing some research on it, and I don't have to do too much research because I've actually lived it. I live it. Everybody lives it. Everybody has their definition of what they think this is or what they think that is. So tell me, what is fear to you? What is fear? Anybody? Somebody? Okay. Brother Arthur, thank you. Fear, I believe, may be an uncontrolled boundary that has a major impact on one's life. Okay, let's see. I like that. Fear, I believe, may be an uncontrolled boundary that has a major impact on one's life. Let's see. Thoughts that stifle me. It's just I'm going to try to put y'all comments. I should be able to show it. Fear is uncertainty or being scared of the unknown. Just a fun fact. Last night I was on uh, Sister Monique. She had this goals thing. That's another thing I want to update y'all about too, just to interject. God willing, the last Saturday of this month, I want you all to write down your goals or things that you would like to share, because okay, so it looks like my internet connection is coming back. So hopefully that stays. If not, I'll have to use my phone for my hotspot. Let me know that y'all can still hear me on here, StreamYard. I know you may be able to hear me, Brother Arthur, but everybody else may not be able to. So if you can hear me, just drop it in the comments that you can still hear me and see me, and that everything is well. It's still counting, so I guess it's still working. Let's see. And then, yeah, so bring your goals, bring things that you want to reflect about, bring things that you have learned, or whatever it is that you want to. Thank you, sis. Um, so that we can have that. Good morning to those that are still coming on board. We're talking about fear. What is fear? And Wanda put, fear is uncertainty or being scared of the unknown. That is another one. Fear is uncertainty or being scared of the unknown. Anybody else have anything that they believe fear is for them? I always feel like my glasses are like so jacked up. Maybe it's just me. Let's see. Fear, what is fear? Fear is an unpleasant feeling triggered by the perception of danger, real or imagined. Okay, I like this one too. Let's see. That is my definition. Fear is an unpleasant feeling triggered by the perception of danger, whether it's real or whether it's imagined. That is what I got from my research. That is the definition according to the books, but I would like to hear what you all have to say too. Fear is an emotional imprisonment that affects the mind to not proceed. I love that. I love that. It's a hindrance. It's something that really can stop you from going forward because you're afraid, right? So, I want to name the five basic fears. After doing some research, I saw that five basic fears are the number one fear, which is something that is just, oh my gosh. The number one fear is the fear of abandonment, fear of danger. Right, right. Fear of abandonment is the first fear. Out of all five, the fear of abandonment is the first one. Can you imagine how kids feel who've been abandoned? Can you imagine how people feel that have been abandoned? I mean, someone just ups and leaves them and never says anything. They just up and leave and disappear. Hindrance, yes, Brother Arthur. Let's see. Um, Loss of identity was the second one. Loss of identity, people losing who they are as a person. They get lost in something or someone, or they don't know who they are anymore. Think about uh, that's one of the reasons why some things like when it comes down to relationships, I never really wanted to be, you know, losing my identity. You know what I'm saying? Like I would just like, I always want to remain true to who I am and never lose my identity. But some people fear that, and I fear that, losing my identity of who I am as a person. Destiny says there are levels to abandonment as well. Okay, well, enlighten me, sister girl. Tell me, what are some levels of abandonment? Fear of abandonment. What are some levels that you think there are to abandonment? The feeling of being left, or let's see, fear of abandonment. It may not be narrowed down to just someone leaving you or someone up and leaving. What are some other things? I actually learned how to post the comments like this last night. That's where I was going with that, Monique. Yeah, she gave me the goals idea and also the how to post the comments so you all can see the comments as they're posted. What are some Destiny? Help me out. What are some other ways that someone can be abandoned? There are levels, she said. Let me know. So again, the first one was fear of abandonment. We're talking about fear for those that are in and out, in and out. Loss of identity is the second one. Loss of meaning is the third fear. That is the third basic fear, loss of meaning. And the fourth one, let me see. It's so much. Wait, I'm trying to multitask. Come back to me. Okay, whenever you're ready, just put it in there. Okay. Let's see. Loss of meaning. Basically, you're not meaning anything to someone, or you're not meaning anything in this life. Loss of purpose, loss of your purpose. I believe I always know what my purpose is. My purpose here on earth is to first and foremost give myself over to God. Brother Arthur says, whoa, loss of meaning. Any thoughts on that? Loss of meaning? Like loss of meaning, losing your value, losing what it means to be who you are, I guess. Those are, you all can feel free to chime in. This is just five basic fears that I was able to come across. The loss of purpose. Like I know first and foremost, my purpose, like I said, is to give myself to God. Like I know that for a fact. Like I'm not here for any other reason or any other purpose. That is the number one and the main reason why I'm on earth. And anything else that comes after that is just natural things, like um basically doing this show. I feel like this is a part of my purpose, like giving people positive things, giving things that really benefit their life and really encourages them. Though I feel like that's my purpose, to always give good to people, to always give good words, good encouragement, you know positive mind, positive tips, things like that. Those are the things that I know that are my purpose. Being there, being a listening ear, trying my best to give the best advice. Those are the things that I believe make up my purpose and my meaning in this life. And then there is the next one that I thought would have probably been one of the top ones, but the fear of death, the fear of dying. The fear of dying is another basic fear. And I'm going to be honest, I have been myself put in a predicament where I have had a fear of death. That has been something that I've had panic attacks over. That's been something I've had anxiety over. I never forget. Oh my gosh, I was in college and I was sleeping, and out of nowhere, I woke up out of my sleep, and I don't like what my glasses always feel like they're just twisted. Maybe my eyebrows, one is up and one is not. Maybe that's what it is. Anyway, and I woke up out of my sleep and I was panicking so hard because I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm about to die. I'm about to die. I'm not gonna live to see 25. I'm not gonna live to be married. I'm not gonna live to have kids. I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die. Oh my gosh, I gotta plan my funeral out. Like, who's gonna be at my funeral? I mean, all these thoughts were like flooding my mind at like 2 in the morning. So I called one of my friends, but they didn't answer. So I called one of my other friends, and she answered, and I began to tell her what all I was going through, what I was dealing with, where my mind was, how I felt like I was about to die, how I felt like I wasn't going to be around for long. I was just going to die, blah, 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 whatever, whatever. So she began to talk me down off the ledge, so to speak, because panic attacks take over so abruptly. They take over so fast to the point where you can't even really breathe or think about how in the world you're gonna like get yourself out of this mindset. All you know is you feel like you're about to die, and you're gonna die right there, and nobody's gonna ever see you again. That's how I felt. And so after she calmed me down, I went back to my room, my dorm room, and because she and I were attending two different colleges. She was my best friend. And so all of a sudden, like, I don't know, maybe people can relate to this, but I heard my name. I heard Beverly. And immediately when I heard Beverly, this peace just came completely over me. And I found myself, I went right back to sleep. So I've had these moments in my life where I've had a fear of dying. And there are times still in my present day that I still have those fears of dying. So what I try to do is I try to say, okay, Bev, you know, dying is a part of life. And I try to talk myself through it. And I just tell myself I got to live the best life I can live and do the best that I can do and give God my everything and my all. And once after that, if He chooses to see fit to take me out of this world, then as long as you've left the mark of God on people that you've came in contact with, you've done your due diligence. You've done your part. And that's what I try to tell myself to calm myself down when I have those anxiety moments. And it's not always easy. It's not always easy. It's very hard. So tell me, what are some things that you're afraid of? What are some things, if you don't mind sharing, what are some things that you're afraid of? I know we talked about this earlier on in the mental health discussion, but remind me, what are some things that you're afraid of? I know some people are afraid, well, some people, this is not funny, but some people really have a phobia for certain things. Let's see. Sister Darwinika says, yes, can totally relate. Coming back to center. I'm so very thankful to have truths to hold on to, or I would be so very overtaken by that fear, like you still struggle with it. Like you still struggle with it. Exactly, exactly. That's the thing. Let me see. You want to come out of it, you can come out of it, but you still struggle with it from day to day. It's not something that necessarily goes away 100%, unless you truly do. Like, I know it can, but I know for me, it hasn't gone away from me 100% just yet. There was a period in my life where I did not have any fear for like a block of like a couple years, a few years, and then out of nowhere, boom, it comes back. And I know for the past couple years, I've had moments where it has been very overwhelming. I've been pacing myself on my job. It got so bad to the point where normally I would have anxiety attacks at home, at night, in the morning, whatever. But I had anxiety on my job to the point where I was pacing back and forth, like trying to get myself together. I felt like my heart was going to explode with so much fear. And sometimes it still comes around. Sister Shalom, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. I can absolutely relate. I told some of my friends last year, I think I'm about to die and how I may not live to see this year. I was preparing and thinking about how would I leave my passwords. It's really not an easy thing. I know. Absolutely. Absolutely. Like, it got so bad to the point where I was like, well, I need to take out life insurance. I need to do life insurance anyway. But this is one thing that triggered me because we're going to go over triggers in a few. But I was looking at my email and all of a sudden life insurance came across, and the first thing I thought about was like, oh my gosh, I'm really gonna die now. Like, it may be funny to me now, but at the moment I was like, oh my gosh, I'm really gonna die. Like, that's a sign I'm gonna leave this world. I need to just take out life insurance. It's over for me. Let me go ahead and put a little bit of change that I got in somebody's name, because it's just over. Like, that triggered me. My anxiety shot through the roof, and I'm having a panic attack about dying all over again. Let's see. The next thing is, one thing that I am afraid of, Brother Trenton says, is leaving God after all that he has done for me. That has definitely been a fear in my life at one point. And I can truly say, it's something to think about. God has been the best and the greatest and will always be the best and the greatest. And there's no one to stick with in life that for a certain will never betray you, will never leave you high and dry, and will always be a comfort. That's God himself. And so if there's anyone that deserves to always be a constant factor in your life, and the first one in your life, that's God. So that's one thing I know, that's a really good thought, definitely. Um and it's a good thing to actually be afraid of, because you don't want it to happen. I get it. I definitely get that. I definitely don't want that to happen either. I will say, as time went on, I have learned to um strive to not be afraid of that, and to also just be like, in the back of my mind, like, okay, when stuff start happening and you start going through so much, that can kind of trigger that fear, because you don't want what you're dealing with or struggling with to pull you in a different direction than the one that can actually get you out of it. So definitely. Brother Arthur on Instagram, you guys, I can't post his comment, but I actually could post his comment. He says, meaning spiritually, I think that losing your meaning, I think that's what he was referring to, loss of meaning. Spiritually, I think that is a major factor in one's belief in God. In a natural perspective, one can have concern of how to achieve one's natural purpose. Like, what exactly am I here to do? Basically, yep, spiritually, I think that is a major factor in one's belief in God. And in a natural perspective, one can have concerns of how, and I read it again just so I can make sure I understand what he was saying. Okay, so in a natural perspective, one can have concerns of how to achieve one's natural purpose. Like, what exactly am I here to do? Exactly. And that's the thing. You have the spiritual side and you have the natural side. Uh, Greetings, Sister Janet. How are you? So glad that you're chiming in. We're talking about, for those that just came on, we're talking about fear, and we're talking about maybe your fears that you have in your life that you would like to share. Also, I went over the 5 basic fears. The first one was fear of abandonment. Two was loss of identity. Three was loss of meaning. Four was loss of purpose. Five was the fear of death. Those are the 5 basic fears that we have. Beautiful testimony. Thank you, bro. I appreciate it, but it was not good going through it. But definitely. Also, Sister Darwinika says, the fear of starting but not finishing in any arena. So basically, in any area of our lives, we want to finish what we start, and it's a fear that sometimes you'll start something. That's how I felt about my business. Sometimes I think about it, I'm like, man, am I really gonna like go forward, and what my plans are to like continue to sell my shoes and expand my brand and do things for men. And I have this fear, and I'm gonna put that here on myself. I have this fear of never being able to successfully design shoes for men. I'm like, I want to design shoes that men will love and wear, church dress shoes. I'll put it that way, because not everybody goes to church. Dress shoes and sneakers for my sneakerheads. And I'm just like, I have this fear that I may not design the best shoes. So I have not done that, because I have this fear that I'll never come up with something that men will actually want to wear and purchase. I know the women have purchased shoes, but I know the men haven't. It's like, man, like, that's crazy. But that is one of my fears as well. Let's see, fear of sleeping due to some traumas. And that's another thing. We have different fears. And that's the thing. That's something that can trigger your fear and put it into place, because of, I know when I was going through depression, I didn't want to go to sleep at some points, because I had so many night terrors. I had so many nightmares. I was having these unexplained or hard to explain experiences in my sleep. Like, it was just so crazy to the point where I didn't even want to go to sleep because every time I went to sleep, I had this dream that I was being taken over by something, and these spirits and everything was just taking over me in my sleep. It was just crazy because I was depressed, and what my daily life was going through, my dreams was showing me what I was dealing with in my dreams. And so it was like every night there was something. I was waking up in the middle of the night screaming out of my sleep. Like it was just crazy while I was depressed. So yeah, I didn't want to go to sleep because I didn't want to experience that again. Things like that was going through. He's like mind blown. But it's like I don't know if it's delayed. I don't know which part that you're, because sometimes I could be talking about something and then I don't know if my Instagram, my internet connection can go out. So fear of sleeping due to some traumas. Absolutely. Fear of never overcoming my struggles. That is a fear that I have too, sis. And greetings to you. Thank you for your comment. For those that are just coming on, we're talking about fears, some fears that you have. If you want to speak on a fear that you have, we're basically going through fear. This is about fear. This is about how identifying what our fears are. First of all, what is fear? Second of all, identifying what our fears are. Second of all, third of all, we're going to go to our fear triggers. We're going to go to that after that. So, fear of never overcoming my struggles. I have that fear as well. I think about the things that I'm struggling with, the things that I'm dealing with, and sometimes in my mind, I'm like, man, am I going to overcome this? But you have to tell yourself in those moments, I will. I can and I will. I can and I will, because you never want to get comfortable with being afraid of overcoming something, because when you get comfortable, then that'll always be a hindrance. That'll always be a thought in the back of your mind. So I've had to pray and ask God to take out every negative part of my mind that wants to doubt or fear me coming out of it, because sometimes we don't know what it's going to look like when we come out. So it's that fear. It's the work of that negativity that's coming in, and just the enemy himself just trying to make us feel like we'll never come out of something, so we get afraid to even pray about it or to even ask God to help us out of it, because we feel like it's something that's always going to be there. So I had to challenge myself to not think negative at all about anything I'm dealing with, because I feel like that holds me hostage to that struggle, and I don't like that feeling. So I have to talk myself out of and say, no, you're going to come out of this. You're going to come out of this. It won't be like this always, and I have to fight myself internally. Sometimes when I'm even praying about it, something in my mind will come up and say, you may not come out of this. And I have to be like, oh, stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. It won't be like this always. That's how I felt about depression. I felt like I was never going to come out of depression. I was depressed for like 3.5 years, well, maybe 3.5 years. So roughly about 3 years, I was depressed. And I felt like I would never come out of it, but I did. Thank you, Jesus. Let's see. Fear of overcoming my fears, not knowing what the outcome would be. Would I succeed in overcoming, or would I get worse than I am already? And that can be a fear as well. You don't know what it's going to look like when you come out of your fears, how it's going to feel, but you can't worry about that part. All you need to worry about is there's a brighter side of this. When I was going through depression, I prayed a specific prayer. I said, God, just let me see the light at the end of the tunnel, and give me the courage and the strength and the know-how to walk towards that light. And I think when I begin to pray that prayer, I begin to see a different side of depression. I begin to see, okay, it's good for me to have this moment, so now I can learn how to trust God. Okay, God, I see myself coming. I begin to imagine myself coming out of what it is that I'm dealing with. I begin to imagine what it would be like to be free. And as I begin to do that and channel that peaceful mindset, I begin to see myself walking towards that light. And as I begin to walk towards that light that was at the end of that tunnel, I could see myself getting better and better and better. And there will be some days when I'll find myself taking a few steps back into it. Then I had to find myself fighting and pushing towards that light and pulling towards. It's like, gravity was just pulling me backwards, but it's like jumping up in the air and you have no other choice but to come back down. Well, I wanted to fly, right? So I had to challenge myself to just keep trying, keep trying, keep trying. If I had to kneel on one knee because I got tired of trying, okay, you're tired of trying, but you got to keep trying. You got to get back up again. You got to keep going. You got to keep going. Um, Yes, it was. I had to look at it like that. It's good for me to have this moment. It's good for me to be in this place because in this place is where I learn God and I learn myself and I learn how to fight. I learn how to not give up because sometimes if you look at there's this movie, it's called Facing the Giants. I don't know if y'all have heard of it. And it's kind of a faith-based movie. It's not kind of. It's a faith-based movie. And in the movie, if you ever get a chance to watch it, I think you should. It's some people may look at it as cheesy. The acting is very corny. I will be honest. The acting is just crazy. I just be like, oh gosh, this is terrible. But the moral of the movie, like the main reason for the movie was to teach this football team how to trust God regardless because they were terrible at football. They lost all the games. They were just terrible. So the coach, he started changing the perspective. You know, basically, we believe God, whether we win or lose. God is still the greatest. You still will praise you, God, whether we win or lose, whether we win or lose. And they were on this losing streak. And then all of a sudden, they started changing the way they looked at things. They started changing how they did things. They started praying before their games. They started talking to God before their games. They started, just challenging their selves to think positive about the games. And so it was this one incident. It was this one guy on the team that was really a leader, and what he did, people followed. So what the man did was he chose him to do this. He said, "Listen, man." He was like, "I need you to get on your knees and cover." I think he had to cover his eyes, and he told him to crawl on his hands and knees and keep going. Basically, he started him at the other end zone. So he told him to crawl, right? And he had his eyes blindfolded, and so he couldn't see where he was to stop. So basically, that's how it is in life. We're in our lives, and we don't know how to, we don't know where we're at. We feel lost, so we're blindfolded. Basically, we're going through this trial, and we're blindfolded. We don't know where the end is going to be, but all we know is we want to get to the end. That's where I'm trying to get to. So basically, he was making them crawl, and he was like, it's so hard, I can't. He wanted to stop. He was like, don't stop, don't quit. Like the coach was coaching him, like, don't stop, don't quit, keep going, don't stop, don't stop. So the guy was just crawling and crawling, and he was screaming. He was like, I can't take it anymore, I can't take it anymore. He's like, keep going, you better not quit on me. He would stop, kind of gain his momentum to kind of gain a little bit more strength, and then he would just keep going. But he was hollering sometimes. He was like, like it was just basically driving him crazy that he had to keep going. So before you knew it, you didn't know where he was on the field, but he told him, he said, guess what? Take the blindfold off. You're in the end zone. And he took the blindfold off and he looked in the end zone and he just like, oh my gosh, like I did it. Basically, that's how it is when I was going through depression. That's how it is whenever we're going through anything. We feel that urge to quit. We feel that urge to stop and give up because things are just so hard where we're at. But we have to keep going because that's when we show perseverance. That's when we show like, okay, I'm gonna keep fighting. I'm gonna keep fighting through this thing. And I always tell myself, how can I really tell anybody else how to get through anything if I quit on every single thing that I've ever been through? If I give up, I can never ever help anybody else if I can't even tell myself to keep going and push through whatever it is I'm dealing with. So yeah, it's good for us to go through things, and that's the only way we're going to be able to overcome and tell somebody else how we've came out of something that we didn't know we would ever come out of. So that's my little spiel about that. Yes, that movie is awesome. I definitely got to find it. I got to buy it because I love it. I used to watch it a lot of times, even though I know the story like the back of my hand. I still love to watch it because it encourages me. So I watch some faith-based stuff, even though I know every belief is not according to what I believe. I still watch certain things because certain things in that movie really just let me see how life can be, how life can make you feel, and how you got to keep pushing and keep going. Even if you got to scream and cry while you're going, just don't quit and don't give up. So fear has a way of putting us crippled in that aspect. The next thing I want to talk about is common fear triggers. So common fear triggers is on the list that I saw in that research was darkness, like being in the dark, not knowing exactly where you are. And that's like multiple things because it could be like my lights are out in my house and it's like dark and I don't know where I'm going and I may trip over something, that kind of fear. Or it could be my life seems dark. and I don't know when the light is ever going to shine again in my life or in my heart or in my mind. So I feel lost. I feel overtaken. I feel overwhelmed. I feel left out, so therefore my fear is being triggered. I'm afraid. So I start panicking. Or it could be somebody's in the water and they're trying to swim. And in that moment they found themselves drowning. So they start to panic and because in their minds they're in a dark spot. They don't know how to get out of the water that they're in. So things like that could be many different ways of darkness. It just depends upon how you view darkness and how you view feeling trapped or whatnot. Or just a place in your life where you're just having a hard time. A person could be a trigger. Seeing someone connected to your fear, absolutely. That could definitely be a trigger. That could definitely be a trigger. Heights and flying is another trigger. A person could be a trigger. Seeing someone connected to your fear. Let's say Okay, so I'm gonna be honest. Okay, let me keep going. Let me read this list first, and I'll go back. Heights and flying. Okay, so I can be afraid of heights. I can be afraid of riding a roller coaster, but for the sake of the thrill, I get on a roller coaster anyway. Um, like the drop zone has always been a fear of mine, but you'll find my crazy behind up there at the top, and I hear it. I know that thing about to drop. It'll go all the way up. It'll click. It'll go up some more. It'll click. It'll drop a little bit. It'll click. And out of nowhere, you just like, ah, like that's a fear of mine, but I still face it anyway. Um, flying. Oh my gosh. Flying is a fear of mine. I hate flying. If I could drive everywhere in the world, I would, because I hate flying. I really do. I hate it with a passion. I'm always up there repenting for my sins and asking God to keep me and protect me. And please don't allow this plane to go down because I'm not ready to die. That's me. Social interactions and or rejection. So people can have a fear of people have social anxiety. So anytime you're with people and you see someone's quiet, that's how I've always chosen my friends, honestly. If I see someone that's quiet and they're not talking, I introduce myself. I said, hi, I'm Bev, how you doing, blah blah blah. Just making them feel comfortable, that they don't have to sit there alone, or they don't have to be afraid to talk to anybody, and then that's how a lot of times, that I've ended up having good relationships with people, because I've actually introduced myself first, because I'm not afraid of social situations. But some people don't always work well in that atmosphere. So you kind of got to be, aware of that. And I also try not to do word vomit to someone that's afraid of social interactions, because sometimes it can be like, oh, this girl is talking too much. I can't take it. So they have to remove themselves. And or rejection. Let's say you want to hang out with somebody or be a part of a certain group or whatever, for whatever reason, and then you're rejected, or they don't want to talk to you, or they don't want to deal with you. That's another common fear trigger. Being on a platform, I think, is having a public speaking moment where you have to talk in front of people. Like this doesn't bother me. I was a teacher for a year. Oh, thank you, sis. You're so sweet. Pray for me, girl. I'm a little crazy, but thank you. But yeah, like I'm not. I used to be a teacher for a year. I'm not afraid to teach. I'm not afraid to speak in front of a big group. I sing all the time, but believe it or not, singing sometimes is a big fear for me. People may not even think that because I sing a lot, but sometimes me standing in front of tons of people can be like the biggest fear, singing. But once I get started, I have learned how to turn my nerves into energy. Greetings. And so I turn my nervousness into energy. We're talking about fear. We're talking about common fear triggers. Brother Arthur says trigger having huge aspirations, but knowing you have a long way to go and the odds are against you. Absolutely. That can trigger some fear. That can make you feel afraid. That can make you feel like there is something, that, oh man, like I got a long way to go and I'm just getting started. But let me tell you, if you just imagine yourself accomplishing that, whatever it is, that aspiration, whatever it is that you desire to do or to become or, to accomplish, if you just imagine whenever that fear comes, if you just imagine it's okay, listen, I can do this and this is how it's going to look. This is how I want to feel. This is just speak those things, but like, okay, this is my thing. When I see myself here, I can go forward and not worry about the outcome. Just make the proper steps. Just make baby steps. I think that kind of, helps our fear not to overwhelm us. He also says, trigger comparing yourself to other success. That is definitely a huge thing. Like you should never ever compare yourself to anybody else, but sometimes seeing other people's success, even in the same field that you're in, you can see somebody. Let's say if I wanted to be a doctor, and then I see somebody else that's being a doctor, and maybe I have a conversation with them about what it took, and they telling me all these things, and you're just like, oh gosh, I'm afraid. Or it could just simply be seeing them post a picture of themselves after they became the doctor, and you're just like, man, okay, I got a long way to go. I don't even know how I'm going to get there, but I got to get there somehow, some way. So definitely that can definitely be a trigger of fear. But you got to tell yourself, I'm good. I'm just as good to be able to make this accomplishment as well. Let's see. Brother Trent says putting someone in their place respectfully and speaking up for yourself without worrying about their emotions. Absolutely. Sometimes that can definitely be a trigger because you don't really know how they're going to take it. You don't know how they're going to treat you the next time. But at the same time, you can't even worry about that. As long as you've done it in a way where you know that you don't have to come back and apologize for the way you deliver things. I think because I know I was the type of person where I never cared about people's feelings. If I had to tell them something about themselves, I would tell them and I wouldn't even think twice about it. But now, yes, I do worry about my delivery. My fear is my delivery. How did I deliver that? How did I say that to them? Or, how they gonna feel about it afterwards? And I'm to the point now where I'm just like, okay, let's just do this thing right. Brother Arthur says to you, Trent, that is a good one. He said, "Yo, that's a good one." So yes, there. Not everybody can be um, that person that's just verbal off the bat and not worry about what people think about how they delivered something. So some people are, do worry about or do concern themselves with the way someone feels about their delivery. And that's understandable. That's definitely understandable. It really, really is. Because that is my fear now. It didn't used to be, honestly. But I've learned to try to be a little bit more compassionate by the way I deliver things. Yeah, I'm definitely working on that. And by the help of the good Lord and much hard work on my end, I have changed a lot in that aspect. And it has made me actually really consider how I say certain things. So definitely. Let me see, because I have some. Hmm. All right. My next question is: how do we develop fears? Like, how do fears come about? I know Sister Shalom said that a person could be a trigger, seeing someone you connected with, so that could be something. But how do you think they develop? I think I saw a comment earlier. Right. She said fear of sleeping due to some trauma. So basically, um, that question that I would answer is negative experiences or panic attack related to a specific object or situation. So that is a way that we also develop fears. We develop fears based off. Okay, so listen, this is what I was going to say out earlier. I am terrified of scary movies, first and foremost. Okay. I do not like scary movies. And when I was a kid, I don't know if my sisters remember this, my older sisters, I was sitting there watching cartoons, watching my show, and in bust my sisters in the room, and they're like, "Oh wait, we got to watch this. Halloween is on. We got to watch Halloween." I'm like, "No, I'm watching cartoons. Like, what in the world y'all doing?" I'm a little girl, and all of a sudden they turn the channel, and all I see is Michael Myers walking down that quiet, dark road with the street lights on, with a knife in his hand, and I'm just like, ah! Like I'm just terrified. So I run out of the room. Thankfully, my parents walked into the house. They probably don't even remember this, but they walked into the house at the perfect time. So I'm running to them like, "Mommy, Daddy, like they turned the TV and I was watching cartoons and they watched this scary movie." And I'm just like all toe up. So basically, seeing Michael Myers' face, seeing the previews, seeing the movie, that terrifies me because even to this day, if I'm walking and it's stairs in the house and it's pitch black down there at night. So if I'm walking from the bathroom to my room, I can see or not see down the stairs. So as I'm walking from the bathroom to my room, I'm like looking, like trying to run to my room because I'm like, God, please don't let Michael Myers be down there to get me. That's how I feel because I'm so scared. I'm so scared. Greetings, sis, of what in the world could be down there to come get me. I'm scared of spiders. Okay. That made me develop fears because I don't like spiders. I hate spiders. There are centipedes and there are regular spiders. I hate bugs, period. They just make me itch and just make me feel all icky inside. So I'm just like, whatever. Let's see, what's another one? Anybody else? Like a situation that could happen. Maybe you saw someone. It's certain things. There are certain things that you could run into um, that could really terrify you and bring triggers. With certain fears, it all starts with the foundation from the youth up. Let's see this one. Oh, wait, you know what? Hold on. I meant to put this one. She says she hates scary movies as well. I probably never have peace the whole month. I know I hate it because the month of October is like extremely filled with commercials with scary movies. I hate that. It's so terrible that you have these triggers and these fears. Greetings. So we're talking about fear for those of y'all that are just joining. We're talking about basically how fears develop and how they basically trigger certain things and put you in a certain headspace and a certain mind space. Let's see. With certain fears, it all starts with the foundation from the youth up to adulthood. Yes, affirmation. I am wearing my affirmation attire. For those of y'all that can't see, y'all can't see on here, but I know Instagram can. Um, Thanks, Cam. With certain fears, it all starts with the foundation from the youth up to adulthood. Are the parents there for their children on all phases of the child's life? And that can be the one of the things of fear of abandonment. Not having that support, not having, that I'm there for you. I'm here to support you. I love you. I care about you. Not just when it's time to discipline, but also when it's time to cheer them on, when it's time to show them the way. Are you there? So it's many different things that can actually trigger the way we feel and how we are concerned about the way we do things, different stuff like that. So yes, absolutely. Some things can steer from a childhood and in the parental childhood aspect. And also, like I said, my siblings scaring the crap out of me with that scary movie. I've never been the same again. Don't ever want to see a scary movie. Don't try to. I may challenge myself one day to watch a scary movie, but it won't be nothing like the Exorcist and people being possessed and all that. I'd rather watch a Michael Myers Halloween movie than to watch some of this other stuff. I don't want none of that stuff in my house. That ain't for me. Maybe for other people, but not for me. Okay, sometimes fear for me, I'm trying to get everybody in. I see we're 52 minutes in, and y'all know I love this. So y'all come on, keep it coming, keep it coming. I'm loving it. I'm loving it. I'm loving it. Sometimes fear for me develops when a person pokes at my insecurities. Absolutely. That can be something to make you want to run and hide because you don't understand where they're coming from. And then it's something that you're not confident in, right? So you're afraid for anyone to see it or know it or hear it. Being vulnerable can be a fear. And if you're already, feeling some type of way about a specific thing and someone starts poking at that or making mention of it or things like that, then you're like, oh my gosh, who else sees this or who else is paying attention to what it is that I'm dealing with at the present moment? Who else knows about this? And those fears come in as well. And you don't want that. So that person that's poking at them insecurities, whoever they are, tell them to stop it, or you may have to just leave them alone. Just delete them, no matter who they are. Um, let's see. Sister Darwinica says things that taught me fear, things that I was taught by others or taught myself, things I have experienced, viewed through the wrong perspective, taught me to be fearful as a means of protection. So yeah, you kind of fear certain things like, I have certain fears that I taught myself, like, like this is not good for you or whatever. And you just kind of learn to be afraid of those things. And you don't actually realize that it doesn't have to be a fear. Other people's fears shouldn't become your fears. If you're really bold in a certain area and you have the courage to do certain things, then you should never allow what someone else is afraid of to become your fear. Let's say you want to start a business and somebody else is like, oh, well, it didn't work for me. And, it's just a lot that goes into it. And honestly, I was just scared that nobody would even purchase my product, blah, blah, blah. So they're talking this talk to you. And all of a sudden you're like, man, okay, well, maybe I shouldn't start a business, or maybe I shouldn't get that home, or maybe I shouldn't go to this place, or maybe I shouldn't say these things because, people aren't going to like me if I do certain things. There are people that will put their fear on you. And all of a sudden you're having those fears and you're like, man, I wasn't even like this before. But that conversation just totally turned me totally in a different direction than where I was going. So that's why it's important to keep certain things to yourself and to not tell other people, because their fear can become your fear and then you're hindered in the area you're trying to go forward in. So yeah, no, absolutely. And then things that I teach myself, basically things that I teach myself, I look at what somebody else is going through. They haven't said anything to me, but I look at what somebody else is going through and I fear it. Like at one point, okay, this might be crazy, but at one point I never wanted to get married. Never in a million years that I want to get married. I was like, forget that. So many people are unhappy. So many people are this. So many people are that. So many people said they would do it differently. They wouldn't, like, it was just so many negative things in my head that I allowed that to make me afraid to like to not want that in my life for myself. Cause I'm like, I don't really know if I want that for me. But of course, things have changed with my mindset and the way my life is. And I'm like, you can't allow what somebody else has been through to become a fear for you, to the point where you stop yourself from wanting something that could be so beautiful. And there are so many people in this world that have a beautiful, you know, outlook on it, that you can allow what didn't happen or go well for someone else to make you afraid that it won't go well for you. So you don't do it, or so you don't want to receive it into your world. So yeah, things like that. Those are things we teach ourselves as well. Hi, Sister Tamara. I always say either or. Hey, girl. Let's see. Okay, now that you've mentioned it again, I'll speak mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual abandonment. Yes, that is one thing as well. I didn't want to randomly bring it up. It's okay. But yes, being abandoned, having that fear of being abandoned in any type of way, not just physically. There are people that are abandoned physically, um, but they may feel that way when a person passes away. It's kind of like, oh man, loving the conversation. Oh, yay. Thank you. Thank you for chiming in. They may feel that way because that person is no longer there in that space with them. So they may feel abandoned that way. Mentally, emotionally, having that support system, that fear of being abandoned in that aspect. You're used to someone being there, but all of a sudden they just drop off the face of the earth and they're no longer there for you. I'm not saying someone that, maybe that one time you called, they may not be there, or, maybe that one time you wanted to hang out, they cancel the plans, not anything like that, but like just that they're not there at all. Like that fear of abandonment to the point where they disappear. They no longer are there for you anymore. You're trying to figure out what in the world happened. Was it something that you did, something that you said, something that you were trying to figure out, or maybe they're going through something. You don't know that either, but it's, spiritual abandonment where you feel like God has left you. You're going through so much. You're feeling overtaken by everything in your life. And you're just like, Lord, where are you? I feel abandoned. I've actually experienced feeling abandoned, in that aspect where I felt like God just left me totally alone out there to handle things by myself, which was not accurate because God is always there for me. But in that moment that I was dealing with so much, when I was depressed and I just felt like my life was just a domino effect, everything was just everything after another. It was depression. It went from depression to panic attacks, from panic attacks to anxiety to nightmares to, fear of looking at myself in the mirror because I just didn't recognize myself anymore. It was just all of this. And I'm like, God, where are you? Like, I don't see you. I don't feel you. I don't hear you. I don't know where you are. And I feel like I am dealing with this by myself. So yes, abandonment comes on all different levels. And you never ever want, that's that fear. That was the number one fear of the basic fears of fear of abandonment. So that's another thing. Good. Thanks, Des, for bringing that, because that didn't even come to my mind at all. Let's see. Fear of saying no. Some people are afraid to say no. Sometimes I can be afraid to say no, but I've learned that I have to choose me. There are times when I have to say, okay, listen, I can't talk to you right now, or I got to call you back, or let me do this. Give me 15 minutes, give me 10 minutes, whatever, just so I can get myself together. Because you can always say yes to everything and then you regret it. You be like, why in the world did I say yes to that? Oh gosh, now I can't even cancel. But yes, you can cancel and say, you know what? I said yes, but I should have said no because I'm not going to be able to do it. Bottom line, do they need a long explanation? No, they don't. Sometimes you just have to say no. No used to be one of my favorite words with certain things that I don't allow. But when it comes down to people, I don't necessarily know how to say no to people. That's my fear of just not being there for them. Like, I can say no sometimes. I can say I can't talk to you right now. I can say not right now. And that's okay because that's healthy for me to have that. Let's see. But the Trenton said exactly like some people don't want to get married because they can't take on the challenge. And if they're not careful, they could influence you to take on those same feelings. Exactly. Someone that doesn't have themselves together or they feels like it's just too much and they don't want to be responsible for anyone else and, all those things, or they feel like they tried it, it didn't work out, or whatever the case may be. Yes, they will project those same fears on you and expect you to just roll with them for whatever reason. Hi, sis. We're talking about fear and we're talking about our common things that give us fear. So those of y'all that are just joining, thank you for coming on. Those of you that had to leave, they're gone, so I can't talk to them anymore unless they watch this and catch up. But thankful for those that are coming in and out. I really do appreciate you all. We're talking about fears and the common fears that we have and what causes our fear. The 5 basic fears, just so that I can go back over it: fear of abandonment, loss of identity, loss of meaning, loss of purpose, fear of death. Those are the 5 things. Common fear triggers: darkness, heights and flying, social interaction and or rejection, snakes, rodents, and spiders. Oh my gosh, I'm terrified of mice. Oh my gosh, let me tell you something. I was at work. I was at work this year and it was a brand new building, which is crazy. And I'm sitting there and all of a sudden they said, "Here comes a rat," and the rat runs. Let me tell y'all something. I said, I'm about to go home. This is too much on my mind. I can't work under these conditions. I'm not about to be sitting here with my feet up all day long because y'all don't know how to. This is a brand new building. Y'all must have built this clinic on top of a rat colony. Like, what in the world? Why is there a rat in this brand new building? Y'all need to get it out, or else I'm going home. And y'all better pay me for going home because I'm not dealing with these rats today. I don't know what happened, but they had to like enclose it. And this they tried to like get rid exact. Oh, sis, I hate rats. I hate them, y'all. I'll be sitting there with my feet up, and then every few minutes I'm like looking down at the floor, looking down at the ground, like, okay, where you at? Where you at? Where you at? Because I'm gonna need somebody to make rat stew because I can't take it. That's just that's not one of my things. Definitely not one of my things. Let's see. Some questions I wanted to ask about fear, and you all can definitely like just things you want to ponder on, like just ponder on some things. Okay, why do we feel fear? Because evidently it's something that we really truly just either don't think we can accomplish. Sis said them rats got to go. Y'all ain't paid me for this. Exactly. Y'all ain't paying me enough to be trying to fight no rats on the job. We ain't having that. I'm from New York. I'm used to them. Y'all have fun with them things because that's not my thing. I'm telling you, I will scream. I will be on top of the counter for the rest of the work, or the rest of the work day, like typing on my computer, just feet up in the chair. No, that ain't for me. That ain't a part of the salary. If so, I need a raise because this is giving me trauma. Okay, I need a raise for y'all to work in these, for me to work in these conditions. Let's see. Then you have to ask yourself questions like, just let me see, what am I actually afraid of? That's one of the questions as well. How often do we feel afraid? Like, how often come to Africa to overcome the fear of rats, sis? No, I don't know if I'm going to ever overcome that one. Y'all just have to just know that, God forbid, if one was to scurry across the church, I'm telling you, I'm be like, listen, I'm going to go home and watch on Zoom because I ain't come to church till I know for a fact that like, I'm not going to be the same no more. I'm going to come in on rollerblades. I can't come in on rollerblades and be like, shoo, 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 skateboard or something. I don't want that thing on my foot. I don't want it. We ain't having that. No, ma'am. No, sir. Let's see. Why do people have different fears? Because there are just different things that people go through, that people have to, afraid of the unknown, not knowing the outcome of something. Exactly. That's another reason why we have fears. And I believe Wanda had mentioned that earlier too. And it's just like, how do you react to fear? How do you react to it? How do you react to fear when it comes upon you? What is your mindset? What are you thinking? I know when fear comes on me, sometimes it's overwhelming to the point where I can't think about anything else but what I'm afraid of. I'm thinking about what is crippling me, what is taking me to a certain place, to a certain thing. So I find myself in the middle of the night, I wake up out of my sleep and I wake up in panic sometimes. And the only thing I can do is pray. And there was a time in my life where when I woke up out of my sleep and I was afraid, that I didn't even pray because prayer didn't even come to my mind. The first thing that came to my mind was just to call my mom, call my sister, hey, I'm scared. I'm scared. Let's talk. I need somebody to talk to. I can't sleep. I can't do this. I can't do that. So I'm going a mile a minute just trying to talk to them. But I do thank God that as time went on, as time progressed, I learned to actually, pray, because it's not always easy to put yourself in that headspace where you're actually able to pray sometimes, because it can be so overwhelming. Anxiety and panic is two different things. Anxiety builds up slowly, but panic takes over you so fast you don't even realize you're having it until it's actually happening. And anxiety will be like, I'm thinking about something, thinking about the outcome, and all of a sudden it's like building, 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 building. But with panic, it's like it happens so fast to the point where I have to, like, oh my gosh, I'm so overwhelmed in it. I'm so like overtaken by it that I find myself not being able to wiggle out of it. But I do thank God that as time go on, I've been learning how to just pray when I'm having it. And then after that, I can just go back to sleep when it happens overnight. Sis said, not rollerblades. I'm weak. If I don't say it enough, I love you, sis. Thanks for everything you bring to us on this show. You're welcome. You're definitely welcome. I love being. I'm a jokester. I can get serious too, but I love to have fun and crack up. Um, so I try to react to fear with prayer. That's one of my things. It's not always easy. Or I try to have a conversation with someone. I try to talk with someone about it as well. I guess. Oh, sorry. It was telling me that my battery is 20%, but I'm getting ready to slowly come to an end. Um, how would you help someone get over their fear? It depends upon what it is. It depends upon what that fear is. Maybe y'all can let me know in the comments. How would you help someone overcome their fear? Let's say they have a fear of dogs. You wouldn't just bring out 3 dogs and be like, "Hey girl, look, pet this dog, pet this dog. It's all right, just rub his stomach. It's all right." No, you would not do that. That's just overload and overkill, and they're gonna be like hating you after that. So if anything, maybe I would start off with a dog that is just birthed, just born, like a really small one. And maybe I get them to like touch it, like rub their back or something, just to like kind of I think one of my sisters is like terrified of dogs. So I would not ever like try to like you know, send this dog after her. Um, Send this dog after her for her to like, oh my gosh, be mad with me afterwards. No, I would literally try to like, maybe a small dog, a really, really small dog, just get her to pet that dog. And that shows some progress, but I'm not trying to, that's if she wants to overcome that fear. Cause some people are fine with the fears they have. And they're like, it is what it is. I don't want nothing to do with dogs. You can't make me love them. And if I see one and I'm scared, I may have to just run it over. Like it is what it is. Um, Spiders, don't even try to get me to overcome it. Ain't gonna work. Nope, they creepy crawly, and I don't know where it's gonna go. And once it's out of sight, what am I gonna do about that? I won't be able to sleep. I won't sleep in that room. I'm just gonna find something else to do until somebody finds that spider and kills it. Okay. Um, so that's what I would do. It just depends. It really just depends. It just depends on what it is. If it's a fear of dying, you don't want to be like, girl, you got to die anyway. Like you don't want you don't want to say something. You're gonna die anyway, so you might as well get used to it. No, if somebody wants to overcome their fear of dying, you know, I had this like I said, I have this terrible moments when I do fear, death. But I used to be so afraid at funerals and everything, when people die, and I used to take dying so hard, so terribly hard, that I would just be a bucket of tears just all the time, because it's just the fact that they died. So basically, one thing my mom told me is that when people pass away and you go to their funeral, touch their body, and just that helps. And it does, it helps me to like touch their body and to get that closure, and I say goodbye, to them. And that's something that has helped me to not be freaking out all the time. Brother Arthur, you laughing at me? Let me see. I'm perfectly okay with the fear of dogs. Let me admire them from afar. Exactly. I get that. I get that. But I ain't admiring no spiders. I ain't admire Halloween. I can look at his face now and be okay, but I still hate it because I can see his face, like, in the darkness at night. I'm like, oh my God, where is he? Like I have 2 closets behind me. I have a walk-in closet on this side and a walk-in closet on that side. So I make sure them doors is shut when I'm asleep. Seriously. Let me see. You can't put yourself on the same level as them. Let that person know that you've been and overcame the same thing. Tell them how you accomplished whatever it was that had you on your knees. Tell them what else to expect. Tell them how long it may take place. So that's a good thing. That's a really good thing. I like that. I like that, Brother Trent. You can put yourself on the same. I'm gonna read it again for my Instagram, just in case if y'all didn't hear it. You can put yourself on the same level as them. Let that person know that you've been and overcame the same thing. Tell them how you accomplished whatever it was that you had on your knees. You had on your knees. Basically, that seems like prayer. Tell them what else to expect. Tell them how long it may take place. So yeah, you can definitely relate to that person if you have that same fear, and just basically give them advice on how to overcome it, and then leave it up to them on how they choose to get through it. Because sometimes we can give people advice and they may take it or they may not take it. It just depends. But it's always a good thing to give them advice. That way, you've done your part, and you're not sitting on that knowledge of what it took to overcome it. Um, Sharing my experience, Sister Niqua says, being there for them. When my son is afraid, I find just being there and reassuring him helps him push past whatever it is. Yes, basically letting them know they're not alone. They're not alone. Even if you don't have the same fear, you can always say, hey, I too myself get afraid of XYZ, and this is what I do when I'm afraid. So just know that you're not by yourself. Okay. Let me see. So basically come to them as a state they're in, as the state they're in. Basically come into them on their level. Basically, that's what Brother Trenton is saying. And also he's saying being on your knees, whatever that had you down and out, basically. Okay. Being down on your knees. Yeah, because I know people would use that in a quote too, like, this situation had me on my knees. And not necessarily not doesn't mean prayer, it just means that it really just put me down. So I get that too, like basically relating to them and letting them know, like, yeah, this had me down and I found myself out of it in this aspect. This is how I came out of it. So all these things are really good things just to let people know how you can be there for them when they are being afraid or when they do have certain things. Let's see. Basically, I wanted to answer this too. What happens when fear takes a hold of you physically and emotionally? When fear takes a hold of you, it can really take a hold on you fight or flight. Two things. When you're afraid, you fight or flight, right? I never forget my little brother when he was a baby, he ran out into the street and I was watching, like I was on the porch and he ran out into the street and fight or flight. I could have stayed on the porch and be like, oh my gosh. I could have ran in the house and be like, Mama, that boy in the street, blah, blah, blah. But I took off because I saw this car coming up the street. I took off after that baby. I was like, oh no, my brother will not die today. And I took off and I ran and I grabbed him. But thankfully the car was coming to the house next to us, so it wasn't going to pass him. But I thank God that I had the mindset to run after him because your nervous system is triggered and your fight or flight comes into handy when you're afraid. So you're either going to fight or you're either going to run in the opposite direction because you're afraid. So that's what happens to you physically and emotionally. Your mind is going all over the place. You're trying to figure out how to do whatever it is you need to do, whether you need to protect yourself, whether you need to protect somebody else, or whether you need to run in the opposite direction. Like if somebody's, God forbid, shooting or whatever the case may be, your fight or flight may happen. You see somebody out there, get down, get down. You never know what you're going to do, but you have to get it all in your mind. Brother Arthur says solution, just being available to them for a form of comfort, like what Trenton said, giving advice or just listening to someone vent. Exactly. When they're going through things, you never want to put too much pressure, but if they need advice, you definitely want to be able to give that to them and calm them down as much as possible. You want to be understanding. Even if you don't understand why they're afraid, you absolutely want to portray as being understanding. Not as a hypocrite, but just basically saying, okay, I can understand that this scares them. So why should I make them feel like they should not be afraid? That's not okay for you to make them feel like, what you scared for? Like, what? How you going to tell me not to be afraid of something? That's the person you don't want to go to, or that's the person you don't want to be when someone is afraid. Definitely not. Let's see. What is my other thing? Questions about fear. What is fear? How do you face your fears? That's the last thing we're going to discuss before I come to a close. Let me see. How not to. If someone has, oh, Trent says right. If someone, let me see. How not to. If someone has a fear of God hating them, please do not give them a scripture of Jacob I love, Esau I hate. It's not pleasant. Sometimes just listening is better than saying the wrong things at that time. Exactly, because sometimes you can give someone something that's not related to what they're dealing with, and sometimes you can think that in your mind it's the right thing to do, but it not necessarily may not be the right thing to do. Because you have to understand where someone is coming from before you can just put something out there. And so if you don't understand where they're coming from, then sometimes the good thing to do is just to not say anything at all. Even though I tend to try my best to have the right words to say by asking God to give me wisdom with people. But one thing I do is that when someone comes to me about something, I ask God to give me wisdom. Right then, when they're talking to me, I'm like, Lord, please give me wisdom because I know I don't want to say the wrong thing to make things worse. I always want to say the right thing that gives them that comfort that someone is there for them, even if that means I have to be quiet because there's nothing for me to say at that moment. So yeah, you have to choose your words wisely because you can damage. You may not always help. Sometimes you may damage if you're not careful. Um, so how do we overcome our fears? How do we actually overcome them? I have some questions just to ask yourself. You know, greetings, sis. How are you, Sister Merlene? I love the fact that my Instagram followers are chiming in. I love you guys. Thank you. So let's see. I have some questions that maybe as I'm going through them, you can like ponder in your mind. That one of them I've already asked earlier. What am I actually afraid of? When fear comes on you, what am I actually afraid of? What am I actually afraid of? Um, am I afraid of the process or the result? Because nobody wants to go through things, right? Everybody wants life to be peaches and cream, right? So we don't want to go through things. So basically, you have to ask yourself, am I afraid of the process or the result? Because sometimes the process to get things done and get things accomplished may be the hardest part versus the results, right? Me trying to get my business together, me trying to do all this stuff was easy for me, but I was afraid of the results. What if no one ever buys my shoes? But I could not think about that. Sorry, you guys. I have alarms set for so many things. I have so many things that I actually need to start winding down slowly but surely. But that's why I'm going through this process. Um, what am I afraid of? The process or the result? Do I feel that I can handle the process? Do I feel like I can handle the outcome? These are questions that you can ask yourself if it's something related to something you're trying to do. Do I feel confident in my abilities to perform? Do I feel that I have to perform and I don't want to? Am I pressuring myself to make a decision quickly when I don't have enough information? Can I get more information? When you're afraid, you got to think about certain things that is triggering you to be afraid. Let's see. Is my sense of worth at stake in this moment? If so, why? Can I drop the question of worthiness? Let's see. This is another one I think is a really good one. Am I trying to protect myself from a particular outcome? If so, why? Am I actually not equipped to handle the outcome, or do I just feel inadequate? So this is like things that you're afraid of when you're trying to do something or accomplish something. Other things, basically, how you identify it is fear sees only the downside of things. So you got to ask myself, I have to ask myself, am I afraid that this may just be a negative outcome or whatever the case may be, like my fear of dying? Am I afraid? Of course, I'm afraid of what the outcome is going to be. Like, who wants to, have a bad outcome after they pass away? For those of us that are religious, we know there's only two options, and we want the best option. There are only two, not options. There are only two outcomes, and we want the best outcome. Um, so that's a fear. Fear doesn't let you stop to think it through. So you got to think about that. If you're afraid, so you got to say, okay, wait a minute. How do I overcome this? Okay, I'm afraid right now, so I have to change the way I think about things in order to really think about what it is that I'm afraid of. Fear tells us to avoid anything new or unknown. That's what fear tells us to do. So we have to change up. Okay, all right, this is something new. That's why I'm afraid. Okay, how do I overcome this? And understand that anything new is worth taking a chance on. I would rather be afraid of it not I would rather be afraid of it not working out by me trying than me being afraid that it's not going to work out and I never try. So that's a fear. That's how we overcome it. We have to tell ourselves it's okay to try and fail. I'd rather try and fail than to not try at all. Because then what good is that going to do me? What is that going to teach me? Just to give up before? hand. Um, Fear constricts rather than expands who we are. So yeah, it keeps you in a box. It keeps you in a box. So you have to tell yourself, what type of life do I want to live? Do I want to live a life in fear, a life in a box, or do I want to actually expand myself and be better than where I am? So I have to really push myself through this fear and allow fear to be my motivation, not my destruction or my hindrance. Fear obscures your intuition, and fear often keeps us from making any decision at all. So basically, how you overcome it, you have to figure out what it is that you're afraid of. You have to ask yourself why you're afraid. And then you have to ask yourself, if this was to happen, what would happen? If this was to take place, what would be the outcome? And then you have to imagine yourself having the best outcome possible. And you have to say to yourself, like, this, I can do this. I can do this. It doesn't matter how it may turn out for somebody else or how it may turn out for me. This does not have to be the end. My outcome does not have to be bad if you're trying to accomplish something. Now, if it's a spider, if it's death, if it's, if it's dogs, if it's something that necessarily you can't have any control of, then you have to understand that you have to make peace with that fear. And you have to understand it's not something you can control. You can't control the outcome of that spider, right? You don't know where it's at. You scared. But at the end of the day, you have to challenge yourself to think differently and know that you can kill that spider. I can kill it, can I? But I'd be too scared. If somebody else is around, kill it for me, please. Rescue me. All right, from this spider. Because in my head, this spider is like 20 feet tall. But basically, it's just a fear of what can happen. And you have to really challenge yourself, to my belief. You have to challenge yourself to continue despite the fear. You have to understand that fear can be a motivation, it does not have to be a hindrance. Um, don't be afraid to fail. Fear of failure, fear of not living up to your own expectations, the fear, all these things come in when we put too much on ourselves or we put too much on other people. Fear of people not being there for us. All those things, we putting too much on other people, or putting too much on ourselves, and it's weighing us down and it's causing us to not go forward. Face fear, assess the truth of your reality. Slow down and think about what you can control. Be willing to embrace that fear and use it to overcome your situation. Absolutely, Brother Arthur. Well said. Again, I'm going to say that again just in case if I didn't speak that clear enough. Assess the truth of your reality. Basically, this is what's happening to me. Slow down and think about what you can control, because some things you cannot control. You cannot control how many people are going to purchase your product. You cannot control um, how many people are going to tell you you're doing well, anything like that. You can't control those things. But what you can do is do everything in your power to make sure that you've done everything you can to be the best you can be in everything. And what happens, happens. Be willing to embrace that fear and use it to overcome your situation, allowing fear to be a motivation, not your destruction. Um, so that's what I wanted to talk about today. I wanted to talk about just having the mindset to continue despite the fear. Fear can definitely be handicap. It can basically handicap you, and it can basically put you in a place where you don't continue because you never know what can happen. If your life is threatened, or your reputation, or whatever the case may be, you had a situation happen and now people know such and such things, and so you're afraid to show your face, or whatever the case may be. You just got to remember that you're not perfect. You don't have all the answers. You can't control everything. But what you can do is do what you can, accept what is, and look for something better to take place. That's been a statement of mine for years. Accept reality, but look for a better outcome. If it's a terrible situation, if you feel like you're in a dark hole, if you feel like you don't know what else to do, if you feel like you don't have anything else in mind to go forward, or whatever the case may be, just understand that's your reality. But it does not have to be your finish line. So I love y'all so much. I'm going to do my closing song. I hope I said something to help somebody. I hope this discussion helped people. Like I said, be looking forward to more shows. I do want to do better with adding people in on my shows, and we're going to have a platform for it. Having the mindset despite the fear. I love that. Yep, absolutely. Sister Shalom says, be willing to ask for help. You don't have to go through it alone. At times, absolutely. There are times when you may have to be alone, but it may just be your time to be alone. It may just be your time to figure things out by yourself, but you should never charge anyone else for not being there for you because it may not be their time to be there for you. It may be your time that you have to learn to be there for yourself. So that's another thing too. But yeah, you don't have to be alone either. You can always speak up. If it's too overwhelming and you don't know how to get yourself out, then yeah, talk to somebody who's already out of it or who's been through it and they came out successfully. Successfully, that is. That makes sense. But I love y'all and I appreciate you. So I'm gonna do my closing song, you guys. Bear with me. Let me see. Oh, may God be with you. Oh, may God be with you. Oh, may God be with you till we meet again. Oh, may God be with you. Oh, may God be with you. Oh, may God be with you till we meet again. Thank y'all so much for joining me. Today was a long session, you guys, so I was trying to wrap it up, but I hope that now you can identify your fears, ask yourself questions to get yourself through those fears and to find yourself talking yourself through it or going to someone that can help you to be able to overcome those fears. I love y'all. Have a wonderful weekend and peace and love, you guys. Bye.